All right. Well, I think I'm live. I know I'm live actually. So thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Welcome. My name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. Hopefully, you know that. They call me the employment lawyer. And I'm here live right now on Facebook, on YouTube, to answer your questions live. Your workplace questions, your employment law questions, your wrongful dismissal, harassment, constructive dismissal, layoff, you name it, vaccination, whatever the issue, whatever the problem, I'm here live at your service answering questions right now. My firm, Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, we're the largest employee side law firm in Canada. We operate in Ontario, in BC, and in Alberta. So if you're in one of those three provinces, you're in the right place. I can help you, and I can help you right now. You can ask me questions. Again, my name is Lior Samfiru. All you have to do is write it in, press the enter button. I'll see it, I'll read it, I'll answer it, and you can walk away here with that answer. Now, let me give you some additional contact information. If you want to connect with my team and I off social media, you want to have a private chat, a private email exchange, easy to do, very easy to do, in fact. All you have to do is you go to employmentlawyer.ca. You see that address right here, employmentlawyer.ca. That's our firm's website. Not only can you read a lot about employment law there and about workplace rights, you can also get phone numbers are there and email addresses are there. Or if you want to just fill out a form, you can do that. It's all there. The best way to connect with me and my team, to have a live person-to-person chat, by phone, by email, by Zoom, whatever it is you want, not a problem. Just go to employmentlawyer.ca. But that's for after. Right now, I'm here live. So if you have a question about losing your job, if you have a question about your severance package, if you have a question that you think your boss is not treating you properly, maybe bullying, maybe setting you up so you can quit, or setting you up to fail, what to do about it, how to respond, should you even respond, now is the time. Maybe you're on a medical leave and you want to know how to deal with your employer that's giving you a hard time about coming back to work. What a great opportunity to ask those questions right now. Maybe you're on a temporary layoff. You want to know how long you can stay on that layoff. I can keep going. If it has to do with something between you and your employer, I can answer it. I can tell you what you need to know, and you can have that information and walk away with that information. It's a valuable information. We all have a right to know about our employment law rights. Now, in between your questions, I want to talk about some other common questions that I get. And usually when I get a question is people wanting to know, is what my employer doing illegal or not? People say, well, my employer is doing this. Is it legal or is it not legal? So I have a list of some of the most common questions that I'm getting, when people ask me, is it legal or not? So I'm going to talk about those right now. So the first one I'll address, people ask me, well, say, Lior, is it my employer wants me to change my job? They want to change my job duties. Can they do that? Is that legal? So let me answer that. An employer may have small leeway to make changes to your job. So they have some leeway. If instead of working on machine 1, they want you to work on machine number 2, they could do that, likely, depending on the situation, but very likely they could do that. On the other hand, if they want to give you a totally different job, increase your responsibility, maybe demote you, maybe they want to relocate you, those are significant changes, and it's not something your employer is allowed to do. In other words, it's not legal for your employer to impose significant changes to the terms of your employment, including your job duties. If they do, you can accept it, or you can treat that as a constructive dismissal. You can treat that as a termination and require your employer to pay you your full severance. Always remember that full severance can be as much as 2 years' pay. All right, so it can be as much as that. So important to remember that, and important to do that. And so a lot of people think, well, it's the employer's job. They can just decide whatever they want. No, they can't. They cannot make significant changes. Now, what is considered a significant change can vary from situation to situation. If you don't know for sure, call me. Let's talk about that. And I can tell you. And again, to connect with me, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca to connect with me and my team. You see that right below me. But right now I'm live. My name is Lior Samfiru, answering your questions. Some questions came in. I'm going to start answering them right now. You have time as well. Ask your question. First question from David. Are non-compete clauses still enforceable? Just started a new job and there's a clause preventing me from working in a similar industry for 6 months after leaving. So in Ontario, non-competes are not enforceable except for senior executives, no matter what. So it wouldn't be worth the paper it's written on. Now, in other provinces, I don't know where David is from. If you're in another province, it's very likely not enforceable, but we need to know more about your job, about the company, etc. In almost every province, the vast majority of non-competition terms are not enforceable. Our courts have said that we don't like things that prevent people from earning a living, so we're not going to enforce them, okay? But the devil's in the details. In Ontario, not enforceable except for executive. Outside of Ontario, likely not enforceable. So keep that in mind. If you ever want to talk about a non-compete, let's chat about it. Connect with me through employmentlawyer.ca. All right, great question. I'm going to continue answering. You have time as well. Next question from Anna Maria on YouTube. Okay, Anna Maria says that their legislation in Romania is very similar. Thank you, Anna Maria. I speak Romanian too, by the way, so bună după masă. Next question is from Teresa on YouTube. Teresa says, I was dismissed by the Los Angeles Unified School District. So can't help you in the U.S. You're in the wrong country. Okay, so you need to seek advice in the U.S. We're in Canada, can only help you in Canada, so can't help you at all in the U.S. Okay, so Teresa, you're nothing that I say here is relevant at all to you in the U.S. You completely can ignore that. Nothing here is relevant in the U.S. In fact, it's relevant in Ontario, BC, and in Alberta only. Next question is from Fortress Maximus. Can my long-term disability provider share my personal medical information with my employer? No, they cannot. Unless you provide consent to it, what they can share is whether you're able to come back to work and what limitations you may have, but not the specifics of your condition. Those are not relevant. Now, they can be done with your consent. And in fact, in many cases, the insurance company is going to want consent, but you don't have to give it. And they cannot, absolutely not do that without your consent. It's a breach of the insurance policy. It could be a privacy breach. So no, your employer cannot do that without your consent. But again, yes, they can share whether you're able to work or not. That is fine. That is fair. Hopefully I'm up to date here with the question. One just came in, but you have time as well. A lot of times I get questions right at the end of this session, and then we don't have time to answer them. So please, if you have a question, don't wait till the end. Type it in now. Hit the enter and sit back and let me read it and answer it. You have time, take advantage. From George, the next question on YouTube. Do employers typically give employees a letter letting them know that they have been put on a leave of absence? If I don't agree with unpaid leave of absence, should I let my employer know in writing when receiving this letter? Okay, so yes, do they typically give a letter? Sure, yes. Do they have to? No, but they don't have to because a leave of absence is not allowed. So whether or not they give it to you in writing or they don't give it to you in writing, it's still irrelevant because they're not allowed to put you on an unpaid leave of absence, okay? Even if it's because of your vaccination status. Of course, I'm only talking about non-union employees. So George, if you've been put on an unpaid leave of absence, you can let them know you don't accept it, but that's not going to change anything. The real question is, are you going to accept that? Are you going to stay at home and wait? Or are you going to treat that as a termination? If you're not going to treat it as a termination, giving them a letter is not going to do anything. So either you treat it as a termination because they don't have a right to put you on, in which case, give us a call, we'll get going, we'll get you the compensation that you're owed, or you just stay at home and wait to be called back. If you're going to stay at home and wait to be called back, giving them a letter is kind of pointless, right? So that's the issue. Do you continue and wait, or do you treat that as a termination? There's really no third option here. So if you wait, no problem, that's your right. Or you treat that as a termination. So a lot of individuals have been put on an unpaid leave of absence because of their vaccination status. Regardless of what you may think of the vaccines, an employer does not have a right to put you on a leave of absence if there's no government mandate. And guess what? There's no government mandates. So if you've been put on a leave of absence, you can treat that as a termination of your employment. By putting me on a leave of absence, you've terminated me, you have to pay me my full severance. If that's what you want to do, let's talk about that. We represent hundreds, if not thousands, of people across Ontario and across Canada in that situation. We're resolving these cases every single day. So let's chat about it. So George, great question. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. So in between your questions, I was talking about some situations where people want to know if what their employer is doing is legal or not. And the next question I'm going to answer is, can my employer make me resign? Is that legal for my employer to make me resign? Well, no. By definition, a resignation is something that you do voluntarily and unilaterally. So your employer can't make you resign. They can't tell you you have to resign. They can't threaten you to resign. They can't say that they consider you to have resigned. The only person can decide if you resign or not is you. If you've decided on your own voluntarily that you want to resign, then you can resign, no problem. But if you haven't decided that, but you feel that your employer is pushing you, just tell your employer, no, I'm not leaving. If you want me to stop working, you can terminate my employment. Because guess what? If you resign, you don't get severance. If your employer terminates you, you do get severance. So why walk away from your entitlements? Your employer can't decide that you've resigned. They can't say, well, because you didn't do this, I consider you to have resigned. Nonsense. Unless you told them you've resigned, then you haven't. And guess what? It's not better to resign than to be let go. It's not. It's better to be let go. Okay? Because then you get EI. Then you get severance. So please, if you're ever being threatened to resign, told you have to resign, anything like that, call me, and call me right away, okay? To reach me, to connect with my team and I, employmentlawyer.ca. Next question, George has a 6 or 7 part question. I'm not going to be able to read that, George. If you want to ask me a question in a couple of sentences, sure, but I'm not able to read 6 or 7 messages live here. So that's not going to work. But if you have a specific question, happy to answer it. Same with you watching right now. If you have a question for me, see how easy it is, right? You ask the question, I answer it. Those joining us, my name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. And as you figured out already, I'm here live, right now, answering your questions about employment law and workplace rights and your job and everything you need to know. As I said, I'm talking about some situations where people want to know if what their employer is doing is legal or not. So tied to what I said before is it legal for my employer to decide that I have to retire? No, it's illegal. And in fact, that could be a human rights violation. So if your employer says, well, you're getting up there in age, so yeah, you need to retire. Just saying that is a human rights violation. You cannot discriminate against employees based on their age. We used to have mandatory retirement in Canada. That's gone. It's been gone for 15, 17, 18 years in most provinces. And so you can work till whatever age you want, 65, 75, 85, you name it, you can continue working. And your employer can't decide that you have to retire, can't tell you to retire, can't even suggest to you that you should retire. It's okay for your employer to ask you, hey, are you planning on retiring? Because we need to know to plan accordingly. That's okay. But to say, well, we really think you should retire, that's overstepping it. So not only if your employer decided that you're retired, not only is that a wrongful dismissal, potentially a human rights violation, not legal, can't do that. All right. Next question live. Ask your question, guys. Why are you hesitating? Ask your question right now. But next question on Facebook from Heather. Are you entitled to EI if you're unvaccinated? So I think what Heather is asking is, are you entitled to EI if you lose your job or if you're put on a leave because of your vaccine status? So the answer is you can get EI, but we need your employer to issue a proper record of employment. The record of employment that your employer is going to issue you initially is not going to allow you to qualify for EI. We need to get involved to get them to issue a different record of employment that will allow you to qualify for EI. So yes, you can get EI, but we'll need to do some work to get you that record of employment. If you simply take the record of employment that your employer gives you and you apply for EI, you will be rejected. Okay, you will be rejected. But once we get involved, not only can we get you severance, we can also get a new record of employment. Then you can get EI. And remember, that EI can pay you for up to a year. So it's a big deal, right? It's a lot of money that you paid into. So that's the answer there, Heather. But it takes some work. But yeah, absolutely, you can get EI. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You see how easy it is? Heather asked the question. She got the answer. Now she knows, and she knows what to do. Same with you at home. If you have a question about your workplace rights, ask away. I'll answer it, and you'll have that information. Be armed with that knowledge. So the next question I'll talk about when people ask me, is it legal or not, is this: is it legal for my employer to let me go for no reason at all? And the answer to that is yes, it is. So even if you've done nothing wrong, in fact, even if you're a terrific employee, your employer is allowed to let you go for good reason, bad reason, no reason, or even a fake reason. What I mean by that is they may tell you we're getting rid of your position, and the next day they hire someone for that position. That may make them liars. That may make them bad people, maybe, but it's not illegal. Your employer can let you go pretty much for any reason as long as they pay you proper severance. So if the severance is appropriate, you can be let go. Now, of course, you can't be let go for discriminatory reasons. You can't be let go because of your sex or your sexual orientation or your disability or your age, ethnicity. That's illegal. But if it's not a discriminatory reason, you can be let go for no reason whatsoever, but severance has to be appropriate. And in the vast majority of cases, well over 90%, when the person is let go, what they're offered for severance is not even close to being appropriate. And that's what a wrongful dismissal is. Wrongful dismissal is a situation when you've been let go and you haven't been paid or offered what you are owed. Chances are, if you're let go, even if the reason is perfectly legal, you've still been wrongfully dismissed because you're owed more compensation, usually a lot more. So if you're let go, it's extremely important that we talk, and we talk right away, because maybe instead of that 2-month severance, you're owed 10-month severance. I spoke earlier this morning with a gentleman. He was let go after 13 years of service. He was offered 6-month severance. He's older in a senior position. He's owed as much as 18 months severance, 3 times what he was offered, at a really nice salary, well over $100,000. So yes, you can be let go for no reason or any reason, but chances are you're owed a lot more than what you realize and what you've been offered. To connect with me and my team in that situation, very easy to do. You see that on the screen, employmentlawyer.ca, employmentlawyer.ca. All right. My name is Lior Samfiru. I'm answering questions. I'm going to continue answering questions right now. Ask yours as well. Next question. Best screen name of the day, Struggling Hustler. Great. On YouTube. Okay, if everyone on your team at work gets promoted except you, and new people hired on the team or hired a level above you, is that unfair treatment in some way? The workplace relationship soured. So that's, okay, let me say this. It may not be a problem if it's not a discriminatory thing. So if you're not being promoted because you're a woman and everyone's promoted as a man, well, that's discrimination. If you're not promoted because you have a medical condition and everyone else doesn't, that's discrimination as well. So that's illegal. But there's another aspect to this. If now the workplace is the situation is embarrassing because everyone's promoted, you're not, everyone's kind of looking down on you, it's very uncomfortable, that could be considered a constructive dismissal. By creating this uncomfortable work environment, it's very difficult to continue working. It's possible that you can treat the situation as a termination of your employment. Okay, so you may be able to do that. So maybe it's discrimination, maybe it's not, depending on what I said, but it could also be a constructive dismissal. So Struggling Hustler, I want to obviously have a chat. I'd like to understand more about what happened, over what period of time, how those promotions happen. It could be a constructive dismissal. So for you and for anyone else to connect with me and my team off Facebook or off YouTube, easy to do. Just go to employmentlawyer.ca. You see that address below me, employmentlawyer.ca, and you can do that and connect with me. We have 10 more minutes or so, so ask your questions. There's more questions right now I'm going to answer, but you still have some time. So if you haven't asked your questions yet, ask them right now and I'll answer them. From George on YouTube, I want to resign. According to my employment contract, I have to give my employer a 3-week notice. Before making the decision to resign, my employer approved a 1-week vacation. My vacation would now overlap with the notice. Should I extend my notice to 4 weeks to ensure I give my employer the notice required by the contract? If you want to be 100% safe, George, then yes, you should. Chances are that even if you don't, things will be fine. But if you want to be 100% safe and eliminate any potential liability, then yes, you would want to extend that so that you can give them actual 3 weeks notice where you're actually there for 3 weeks. Like I said, chances are very, very, very small that you'll have any problems if you don't do that. But there's the chance. So it depends how safe you want to be. If you do want to be completely safe, then you should give them that extra week of notice. Hopefully that makes sense, George. If not, let me know. Next question. Next question from Lifestyle Management on YouTube. When we were on lockdown in 2020, our office closed for 1 month and I received CERB. I was home for a full month and received $2,000. Now I received a letter stating that I owe the government. What should I do? Well, you should certainly. Well, I don't know why you get it. It's if you are in fact not working, you shouldn't be owe the money. If you were still working and getting paid and you received the money, then yes, potentially you would have to pay it back. So I'd need to know more. You may want to talk to an accountant about that and understand why that is. And because usually you would only have to pay back is if you received money you shouldn't have received. Okay. So if you didn't meet the criteria for CERB, there's specific criteria and you got it anyway, then you have to pay it back. If you met the criteria, you wouldn't owe the money. So I think you understand what I'm saying. Either the government made a mistake, which is possible but not likely, or you got CERB when you shouldn't have gotten because you didn't meet the criteria. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I'm caught up on questions. So while I'm waiting for your next questions, let me tell you about another tool that we have that you really need to know about if you lost your job or in any other situation. And that's our severance calculator. Okay. A lot of people want to know how much severance they are owed if they lost their job or if they lose their job in the future, or they're just curious. So here's how you can find out right now, this very moment, if you want, how much severance you're owed. All you do is you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. You see that address right here below me, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Our Pocket Employment Lawyer tool allows you to do a bunch of things, including calculate your severance. So when you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca, you will see our severance calculator tool. You click on it, and when you click on it, you can find out what severance is for you. Answer 3 questions: your age, your position, and the length of your employment, and it's going to tell you whether you're owed 1 month severance or 24 month severance or anything in between. Now, very important to remember, it's free, it's easy to use, it's completely anonymous. You don't have to put in your time, you don't have to put you don't have to put in your name, the company's name, your address, your email address even. It's just there for you to find out how much severance you are owed. And if you want, you can even contact me directly from the Pocket Employment Lawyer, from the severance calculator. There's a button there if you want to contact me. It's the easiest way for you to find out how much you're owed. And I bet you anything, before you even use it, think in your mind how much you're owed. Put that number in your mind and then compare it with what you're actually owed. I bet you anything that the real amount is a lot higher than the number you had in your head. Most people don't understand, they don't appreciate how much severance they're actually owed, how generous our severance laws are in Canada. So you may think you're only owed 2 weeks pay, and it could be 8 months pay. You may think you're owed a week per year of service and you're owed 3 months per year of service. So whatever the situation is, check it out, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Always the very first place you go to if you lost your job. And definitely tell your friends, if you're talking to your neighbor across the road and you know they lost their job, before they do anything, tell them to go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. If they sign off on that severance offer, as bad as it is, then they're done. They can't go back. Every single week, I'm contacted by people that didn't know that they're owed something. They accepted that severance offer. Now they realize, wait a second, I'm owed an extra $50,000, and I can't help them because they signed off on that offer. Okay, so don't let that happen to you. If you're let go, if you're even worried about let go, contact me or just go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca and use the severance calculator. All right, next question, again, follow-up from George on YouTube. The employer is requesting that employees be vaccinated in order to access the workplace and is implementing a hybrid model, requesting that we work in the office 3 days a week. Would they need to be vaccinated to go into the office prior to the vaccine policy? Is this a de facto change of your employment terms? Absolutely. Of course, that's exactly what it is. So you can look at that as a termination, a constructive dismissal. So George, I don't want you to just resign. You talk about giving notice to resign. You're owed severance here. Don't do that. Reach out to me in my office and let's get you the severance that you're owed. Okay? Of course, that is a constructive dismissal. So no, you're talking about this vacation, etc. Forget about that. Okay? You're not leaving, or I mean, I'm not leaving. I'm telling you, you shouldn't do that. We need to talk, right? Let's get you the compensation that you're legally owed, that the law says you should have. Okay? Forget about resigning and giving notice. We need to get you that compensation. So George, you want to reach out to me? You can do that through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, phone number is going to be there. The email address is going to be there, employmentlawyer.ca. Next question that I get in terms of, can my employer do, well, sorry, George has a follow-up. George, I think I've answered that. You said, can I refuse to sign the vaccination policy, arguing that's a substantial change? George, we should talk about this, okay? Because it's a constructive dismissal. I don't want you doing anything, okay, until you have get proper legal advice from us. You don't want to play around with your rights, okay? This is too important. There's too much at stake for you, right? So you want to reach out to me as soon as possible. So the last question I'll answer in terms of things that people want to know if what their employer is doing is legal or not is this. Can my employer put me on a temporary layoff? And a lot of people are surprised by that it's not legal. Your employer can't put you on a temporary layoff, just like they can't put you on an unpaid leave of absence. By the way, an unpaid leave of absence and a temporary layoff are really the same thing. You're not working, you're not getting paid. So whether you're in Ontario or in BC or in Alberta, if you're put on a temporary layoff, you can accept it, but you can also choose to treat that as a termination of your employment because it's not legal. Even if that happened because of COVID-19, even if the business was slower. A lot of businesses have been slower or were slower because of COVID-19. Even in that situation, if you're put on a temporary layoff, you can choose to treat that as a termination and get severance. But here's something else to think about. Let's say you don't do that. Okay, let's say you just, fine, I'll be the good team player, I'll sit at home and wait, and then you get called back to work and you go back to work. Great. Here's the problem. By accepting that temporary layoff, you've given the company the right to do it again. So the company didn't have a right to put you on a layoff to begin with, but you let them do it, you accepted it. By accepting at that time, now they can do it again and again and again. So if they call you back and then a couple months later they put you on another temporary layoff, you can't do anything about it because you let it happen that first time. That's why it's so important to understand that you have the option to treat that as a termination and understand what happens if you accept it. That's true, by the way, for every change. Let's say the company reduces your pay and you're not happy about that. Who would be? But you decide to accept it. Okay. Well, by accepting this reduction, you've given them the right to do it again. And the next time and the next time and the next time they do that, you're stuck. You can't do anything about it other than just quit, of course, because you let it happen the first time. So whenever the terms of your employment are changed, hours, compensation, days of work, whatever it is, layoffs, temporary layoffs, if you accept it, you've opened the door. You've given the company the right to do it again. And that could be potentially a huge problem. If you have questions about this, if you want to talk to me and my team about this, very easy to do. Just go to employmentlawyer.ca. Guys, this is the time that we have for today. I very much appreciate your attention. I appreciate the questions and your participation in this session. I'll be back here as always, but don't wait until then, okay? If you have a question, you want to have a private chat, you want us to actually get going to help you with your legal rights, just go to employmentlawyer.ca. Let's connect that way. We have a whole team across Canada ready, willing, and able to help you. Thank you guys for all this. My name is Lior Samfiru, one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. I'm the employment lawyer. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.